About arrays and objects. Good times. We haven't had a chance yet. So, how do we make an array? Square brackets, right? Cool. What's your favorite vegetable, Andrew? That'll be just fine. I'm not going to hold you to it. Yeah, Yamini, right? No. Yeah, back there. Sorry. Yeah, you were sitting in this row yesterday. Okay, that throws me off. Okay. Yamini, what's your favorite? Carrots. Legit. So that's an array, right? Nothing too fancy. Ayushi. Tomatoes. Talk to you more on Slack than I talk to you in real life. Oh, she sent me a Slack message at some point. Talk about tomatoes. You know. Veggies. Piece of cake, right? So that's how you create an array. How do you access items from an array? Like you mean it.
With an index number.
Yeah. Say the whole thing. You said...
Veggies, square brackets.
Yeah, with square brackets and then an index, right? Yeah, so like console log, veggies, square bracket, 1. That'll be carrots, right? Because it's 0 indexed, right? Carrots. There we go. Totally works. How do you add to the end of an array? How do you add something to the end of an array? Push, yeah. Totally works. Just like in other languages you may know. Veggies.push. What's your favorite other Andrew? What's your favorite veggie? Cauliflower. That'll work. What about removing from the end? How do you do that? Pop. That's right. So there we have it with cauliflower on the end. Veggies.pop. Console log. Veggies. And now, no more cauliflower. Very sad. Sorry, you're going to have to stick to your broccoli. Anybody know how to remove from the beginning? Or how to add from the beginning or any of that? How do you remove from the beginning? Anybody know? Every once in a while someone will know this. Good guess. Slice you can remove from anywhere. Good guess. Shift. Shift removes from the beginning. So think of that as like, so here's the beginning of my array over here. We just shift it, then now that one's gone. And this is the array that's left over. So if I say veggies.shift, there goes broccoli. Anybody know how to add to the beginning? It's weird, and it's the only reason I even end up removing from the beginning. So push adds to the end. Unshift adds to the beginning. Veggies.unshift. Yeah, kind of weird. Unshift, let's see. Yeah, what's your favorite, Ellie? Cucumbers, all right. There you go. Now, there it is on the beginning. See, I wouldn't lie to you. Remove from the middle? Yeah?
Slice.
That's right. Slice. So how does that work? Let's look up the syntax, shall we? It's good practice. JavaScript array slice. You know, when I Google things and look things up in class, that's because, like she said in the first day presentation, like sometimes it just looks like you just know this stuff, right? We don't just know this stuff. It's because we've looked it up before. So sometimes we look things up in class to kind of simulate that activity of how you could find out if you didn't already know. So I'm just going to Google JavaScript array slice and look it up. And wouldn't you know it, the first result is MDN, Mozilla Developer Network. Slice method returns a shallow copy of a portion of an array into a new array object selected from the... I meant splice, not slice. Sorry. Did you say slice? Or did you say splice? Slice. Okay. Splice is actually what we want here. Yeah. Array splice is what I meant. Splice. So splice changes the contents of an array by removing existing elements and or adding new elements at any position in the array. So here's the syntax. The first parameter, start, the index at which to start changing the array. The next one, next argument is how many things to remove. And then any additional arguments are things that you can add. So if I said splice start from index 2 and delete one item, what do you expect to see? Yep, console log veggies. Yeah, tomatoes is gone. So if we wanted to find a specific one first, how can we do that? Let's say find and remove from the middle. Anybody know how to find the index of something in an array? Index of? Seems like a very reasonable guess. So let's say let I equal veggies dot index of camel cased. Let's search for carrots. And let's start from I and remove one item, and sure enough, carrots is gone. So now we've removed from the middle of the array. But we can add to the middle of the array too, we said, also using splice. Add to the middle. So we can say veggies dot splice. So the first argument is the index you want to add it to, right? And then you just say you want to delete 0 things. And then anything else you add there will go in that position. So let's say, what's your favorite, Colin? Bell peppers. Fancy. Oh. Doesn't have a name tag. Remind me? James. That's right, James Kim. What's your favorite? That's all right. Anything else? Can you name another vegetable? Asparagus sounds delicious. All right. So let's see what happens here. There you go. So bell peppers and asparagus get added here, right in the middle. Right? Totally works. Yeah.
Did you ever have to rewrite some of these methods in order to make them more efficient? You have to worry about that?
No, not generally in JavaScript. It'll be fine. To be honest, once you get into like front-end web programming, when it comes to performance, you're usually worried about different stuff than that. You know, it's very different from the kind of stuff you're probably used to doing in your projects for school. You still do worry about performance a lot, but it's usually different stuff than that. It's usually like minimizing screen refreshing, because that's the kind of stuff that's really slow. So yeah, it's just you worry about kind of different stuff.
Will splice work if you try to add it to the end? Like I know there's another way, a better way.
What do you mean? Like if you put
Instead of I as the index, you put 2 as the starting index.
No, you can totally add things in the end with it. What if you put a bigger number than is actually there? Yeah. What if we put 10? It just throws it to the end. Yeah. If you put too big a number, it'll just throw it on the end. Good to know. It's not going to like add blank ones in between. I honestly didn't know. I'd never tried. Oh, good question. If you don't know, try it. See what happens. All right. So those are arrays. Arrays are our friends. How about objects? Objects. Whee. So we had to deal with objects in some of our Code Wars problems, didn't we? So how do you create an object? Instead of curly braces, instead of square brackets, we use what? You'll never guess. Curly braces. All right, so let's make ourselves an object. And objects are basically key value pairs, right? It's a set of properties and their values. And the properties are always strings, and the values can be absolutely anything. They can be strings, they can be numbers, they can be other objects, they can be arrays. Yeah.
Are they like dictionaries?
Yeah. Yeah, they're like dictionaries from Python or some other languages, or hashes from Ruby, or yeah. Pretty much. So let's see here. Const foods. So they could be simple things like strings. What'd you have for breakfast today, Dante? You didn't eat breakfast. You did? Oh, good. Oatmeal. Got a little oak moke going on. I like it. Oak moke and twamiches. That's right. It could be things like numbers, like calories. I don't know. 190. Is that how many are in your granola bar?
I think so, to be honest. I don't know how I do that. It's already ripped up. Oh, wait.
That's okay. It's probably 100.
198.
It is 190? All right. 190. So it could be a string. It could be a number. It could be an array. All right, doesn't matter. What's your favorite protein, Graham? No. Okay.
Turkey bacon.
Turkey bacon, that'll work. Cool. So, again, I said that the keys are always strings, but I'm not putting quotes around them. You always could. But the cool thing is, if your keys are named like variables are named, so they don't, you don't violate any of those rules. You don't start them with a number. You don't put dashes in the middle, that kind of stuff, no spaces in the middle. Then you don't have to put the quotes around them. And there's another advantage to that, too, that we'll get to in a second. But you could totally put any string in the world there if you want to. Jake, what's your favorite? What are you having for lunch?
Some sort of sandwich, Subway or Uber Johnson.
All right. So let's put the string Jake's lunch, colon, twamiches. All right. So it can be any string in the world. You don't have to follow those rules, but if you do, then you don't have to put quotes around it, which is kind of nice. And another thing that's kind of nice, you can always put the trailing comma here, which may offend your sensibilities a little bit. It used to mine, but now it bothers me if it's not there, because when I come back and change this, I am inevitably going to forget to add the comma to the line before. So I just leave it there all the time. And yes, you can do that in arrays as well. So that's an object. Add a new property to an object. How can I add a new one to that one that's already there? You know? Well, I guess first we should deal with how we access an item from an object. Accessing a property. How can I get 190 back out of there? Yeah, Colin. Foods.calories. Indeed. Console.log foods.calories. There you go, 190. So you can use the dot syntax as long as you followed those rules for naming your keys. The keys can be any string in the world, but as long as you name them like variables, then you can use the dot syntax to access the property. If we wanted to get Jake's lunch out of there, we couldn't do that. How would we do that? Anybody know? Anybody know the other way to access a property? Yeah, Eli?
Square brackets.
Square brackets, indeed. So foods square bracket Jake's lunch. There you go. Pretty much is. Totally works.
Still need the quotes inside the square brackets, though.
And you could put a variable in there, but if you're using a literal, then yes. Yeah. So I could also do something like let meal equal breakfast. Foods, square bracket, meal. Right? So this is an important point. So if I had the meal in a variable, I cannot say foods.meal, right? That would look for the string meal. That would treat that as a string literal and look for one that's actually called meal. So if meal is a variable, you're going to have to pass it in square brackets. I'm emphasizing this point because this is something we're going to have to do. And I don't want it to blow minds when we get there. So you understand that? So just like we could put the string Jake's lunch in here, we could totally save a string to a variable. And if we do that, we can't, of course, say foods.meal. That's going to look for one that's actually called meal, not one that's called breakfast. So if that's a variable, you're going to have to pass it in square brackets. Do you have a question, Colin?
No, I was looking at the wrong thing. I thought Jake's lunch was protein, and I was going to say, what if you want like a specific item out of Jake's lunch? But it's not the whole array, which is fine.
Yeah, so I mean, in that case, foods.proteins, and then you've just got yourself an array. So you can do whatever you can do to an array. So
Yeah, but Jake's lunch was like in the square brackets already, so I thought it was an array.
square brackets after the square brackets if you wanted to do that. So we could do square brackets proteins, square bracket 0. That'll get you eggs, right? So once you've got this thing, you've just got yourself an array, and you can just stick square brackets on the end of there. Doesn't matter how ugly the syntax was to get that thing. Yeah. You might want to save it to a variable in between because that does get hard to follow, right? And you have multiple sets of square brackets, one after another. Proteins, eggs. Where's my eggs?
There's an extra dot.
Sure enough. Yep. Yep, totally works. So then how would we add a property? And how do we add something new? Same way, just throw an equal sign in there. So say foods dot pasta equals, what's your favorite pasta? Who haven't I pestered enough? Jim, I haven't pestered you. What's your favorite pasta? It can be, yeah. It can be boring, man. Okay, fine, spaghetti. Yeah, it totally works. So we could do it the other way too. Right? If we wanted to favorite pasta, totally works. Or foods dot snack equals Pop-Tarts. So where's favorite pasta? There it is. Any favorite pasta, and there's snack. Either one of those will work. And notice the order does not matter. These are not ordered. So,
Why did favorite pasta go like in alphabetical?
it appears to be showing it to us in alphabetical order. I don't know that you can count on that. But they don't, objects don't care about order. So the fact that it spat it out in that order, I don't know that that actually means anything. Cool. So I said the properties of an object could be anything. Strings, the values. Properties are always strings. The keys are always strings. The values could be anything. Strings, numbers, other objects, arrays. Why not functions? Sure, totally do that. So I could say, I could have defined it that way if I wanted to. Up here, put a function, or let's see, foods dot eat. That could totally be a function. Why not? Or we can add one after the fact that's a function. Like foods dot eat equals function console.log nom nom. Totally works. And you just call it just like that. Nom nom nom. When a function is a property of an object, we have a special name for those kinds of functions. Anybody know it? Yeah, that's right. A function that's on an object is a method. And there's some special things about methods that we'll learn about a little later. So what happens if you try to use something that isn't a string as a property? The thing about JavaScript is it does a lot of type conversion for you. It makes it really easy to make errors sometimes because it'll just think, oh, okay, that's what you want me to do here. Instead of giving you a type error or something, it'll just do the conversion on the fly, which is kind of goofy. So we can make ourselves a little array here, const dinos equals T-Rex triceratops. We could say foods square bracket dinos equals what? So now we have a key in there. Let's see, where'd it go? Oh, here it is. Here's our object. We have a key that is the string T-Rex comma triceratops. So it'll just convert it to a string and make that the key. So I don't think I could get it. Let's see. I don't know. Would it work to try to get it back out of there using that? What? Yep, it does work. I'll demonstrate something here. Object.keys, foods. So see, it is the string T-Rex comma triceratops. But that brings me to another question. List all the keys. That is, property names in an object. You might have had to do this to do the mirror object thing on Code Wars, those of you who got that one done. But that's object.keys. I just spoiled it. Object.keys will give you an array of all of the keys in an object. I can say const keys equals object.keys foods console log keys. Also a good thing to know. Gives you an easy way to loop over them for one thing. So there we go. Non-string keys will automatically be converted to strings with toString. So there's a toString function built into absolutely every object. So how about looping over things? How do you loop over an array? We have for loops, just like in other languages you might be used to. We can totally do that. I think I already had an I up. Yep. So for I equals 0, I less than veggies.length, I plus plus, console.log, veggies, square bracket, I. There you go. That's gross. Syntax is super gross. I don't like it. Yeah, Kumi? Yeah, they'll tell you this is the last time you're ever going to see one in this class. But yeah, the first one is what runs before it ever does the loop. So that's a statement that will run before it does the loop for the first time. The second one is the condition that it checks each time through to see whether it should go through. So it's something that returns true or false. And if it's false, then it won't run through the loop anymore. If it's true, then it'll keep going. And then this is a statement that runs after each time through the loop. So this will run before the first time. This will run in between each time. So in this case, we're keeping track of a counter that starts at 0. And each time it runs through the loop, it'll make it one bigger. It'll run the test again to see if it should go through again. But that is an awfully prescriptive way to say, do the same thing to every item in an array, right? That's ridiculous. We have better ways. Anybody know a better way? Anybody happen to know? So ES5 gave us a function called for each. And what that does is allows you to provide a function that will be run on each item in an array. So let's say we have a function called log the thing that takes an argument, and just console logs whatever that thing is. I could say veggies dot for each, and its argument is a callback. In other words, it's a function. You pass a function to another function, we call that a callback. So for each just takes a callback, and it will call, like we're not the ones calling log the thing. For each is going to call it for us, and it's going to call it once for every item that's in that array. So if I just pass in log the thing here, no parentheses, it'll do it. It'll just call that thing. Just to make it totally clear what's happening here. Get it? If we're going to call it log veggie, call it veggie. Log veggie. Yeah. Log veggie. Get it? So that's pretty simple when we've already written the function that we want to call. So if you have a function that you want to call once on every item in an array, it's just that easy. Veggies.forEach, that thing. Now, a lot of times, It'll be a function that you're only going to use that one time. So you'll often see it passed in as an anonymous function, like this. Veggies dot for each. And then you'll actually write the function right there inside parentheses. In which case you need to that it's going to pass in each individual veggie as the argument. Now you can name that argument whatever you want, right? It's just an argument to a function. It doesn't need to be called veggie. It could be called pancakes. Doesn't matter, right? I'm naming it veggie because you may as well name it something simple, sensible. You dig? Same thing. It could be a named function that you've already written, in which case you end up with something really simple like this. For each veggie, log the veggie. Or you could actually write the function right there inside parentheses. Is this clear? Any place you could pass in a callback, you could just write the callback right there in place as an anonymous function, a function that has no name. So in addition to for each, there are a whole bunch of other cool array functions, array methods like that. Map, reduce, filter, find, all of which are super, super handy. We'll talk about one more of them. We'll talk about map. So what map does is it again does the same thing to each item in an array, but this time it returns a new array containing all the return values. Basically, it collects all the return values. Collects all the return values. So if we have a function, I don't know. Veggie feeling. It's a function that takes a veggie as an argument, and it just returns a string. Veggie thoughts. How about that? Then I call map on that. Veggies.map. Veggie thoughts. And I'm going to get a new array out of that. So that's the difference. Not only is it going to call that function on each of these, it's going to collect the return values. Right, so I get an array with thinking about some cucumbers, thinking about some bell peppers, thinking about some asparagus, thinking about some tomatoes. Do you get it? Get the difference between for each and map? Difference is it does something with the return values. But either one will perform the same operation on each item in an array. And I will admit, sometimes I'm in the habit of just always using map, even if I'm not doing anything with the return value. You dig? Arrays and objects.